I was born into a Christian family and brought up in this church, and I think that whilst I've always believed in God, I always felt like he was someone else's. When I was 11, I went on the Heatree Youth Weekend away, and I saw God move in people, but nothing happened to me, and I felt like God didn't want me. I struggled with this throughout secondary school, and whilst I tried to read the Bible and do the right thing, there was always a voice inside me which said that God didn't care enough about me to speak to me. I didn't tell anyone how I felt because I was scared of being accused or of admitting that I wasn't okay, so I just pretended that everything was fine. I had conversations with people where they told me everything that God was doing in their lives, and I felt like such a disappointment for not experiencing the same things as them. A few weeks into uni, my mum messaged me and said that Simon strongly recommended that I get baptised, and I absolutely panicked. I was like, I can't get baptised because I don't even know what I think anymore. And I called my friend and she asked me lots of big tricky questions which I couldn't answer. I went to gospel night at the Christian Union that evening and I felt awful. I felt like a failure. But after it finished, I had the courage finally for like the first time in 10 years to go up to the pastor and say, I'm not okay. He introduced me to a third year who went to his church, and I told her all of this, how I felt, like all that had been happening. And I found that I wasn't judged or condemned. Instead, she prayed for me. She prayed that I would encounter God, and she invited me to her church. I went along that Sunday and I felt so out of place. I didn't even feel that I could sing the worship songs. And in my heart, I was contemplating, should I even keep going to church? What is the point of going? The pastor then told us to find another person in the church and to pray in pairs. And I kept my eyes firmly fixed on the floor. I did not want to make eye contact because I genuinely did not feel that I would be able to pray for someone else. The pastor paired me with a woman who prayed for me. And after she finished, she said, I just had this feeling God wants to say, I see you. And I'm proud of you. And it struck my heart and I started sobbing into her shoulder. It was as if I'd been waiting to hear those words, that those were the words I needed to hear. All the rest of that day I was so happy. I could barely play my flute because I was smiling so much, and I messaged my friends and my mum and I told them everything that had happened. I even was finally able to be honest with one of my friends who I'd never told I hadn't been baptised, and I told her that I'd been struggling for so long, but I told her about the joy that I now felt. The next week I ended up at a different church, which wasn't actually the one I was intending to go to, and after the service, the woman who had been sitting behind came and prayed for myself and my friend, and she said while she was praying, God sees you, both of you, and he loves you. And after she had finished, she said, I felt that especially for you, Hannah, that God sees you. And she told me that the verse, even though I walk through the darkest valley, was for me as well. That God doesn't leave you stuck in the valley. He guides you through it and he's with you through it. The church took us out for lunch and my friend shared her testimony. And after she had finished, they said, so what's your testimony? And I realised that I have a testimony. I had a phone call with Simon about all of this. And I decided that I would get baptised, and I couldn't wait. I was so happy. But then a few days later, I felt really unsettled. I felt like something wasn't right, but I couldn't quite put my finger on it. That evening, I couldn't stop crying. I was so stressed and anxious, and I called my mum and said, I don't know why this is happening. The next day I woke up and it was like this anxiety gripping me. And I called my mum at 7:45. And she said it sounded like a spiritual attack. I had so many thoughts flooding through my head, like, do you actually believe in God? Like, are you just making this up? I spent the day going through sort of spiritual mood swings. I would be so happy and joyful for 10 minutes or so, and then I'd be dragged right back down, and I'd have to climb back up by reminding myself of everything that had happened. Those few days were hard, but God did not let me go. And I'm sort of grateful for them now because I'd never understood what spiritual warfare really was. And it felt so unnatural. It felt like a wrestle for my soul. And it allowed me to realise that there is an enemy, but there is also a God who holds us. I kept hearing the same verse and it stuck out to me. I have engraved you on the palms of my hands. God has me in his hands permanently. I belong to him and he will not let me go.